You know what really grinds my gears? Recently, this past couple of weeks, I find myself getting irritated by how we must always sort of preface our opinions because and I find it why that we have to do this is because for some reason, number one, people seem to get offended very easily, even at the simplest statements of opinions. It's not necessarily an attack on the person or even an attack on the idea. Sometimes we even just question people on their opinions, and what we what we receive is basically hostility. And so because of that, now we are at a point where before we ask any questions, we have to preface it with, I'm not sure if you pronounce it as preface or preface or what have you. But yes, but you must preface it with sort of a disclaimer saying that, hey, look, I'm not trying to insult you, but I'm genuinely curious. So it got me thinking, why is that as such? But it seems to me that people generally have a negative perception on other people, that we just assume the worst of people. Why is this so? Well, perhaps it's because of how everything is, how the systems that are in place, how capitalism took over, and we've gotten to a point where society is now very individualistic, I think, and it really shows. It shows to this point, to just very simple things. So yeah, I'm not comfortable by that. So the other day I was on Reddit in the R Enlightenment community. There was someone who was posting their experience or their thoughts or whatever, and so I enjoy reading the comments to basically see the other points of views of other people, right? I noticed someone was asking questions very, very honestly, without any disclaimers, though. So this person merely stated a question, asking like, "Hey, like if you said this, it's pretty interesting because what is your definition of this particular word? Since you reference it a lot in your post, so I would like to know. I would like to clarify your definitions so that we can have a spirited discussion on it, or something along those lines." And the response that the person who posted it gave was something along the lines of, I can't specifically remember, but it was rather hostile. It was coming from a place where, oh, I'm calmly sharing things with you. Why are you trying to start a debate or start a fight or something like that? So how do we fix this? How? Or maybe it's something that I need to fix. Maybe, I mean, because why am I so bothered by it? Why am I bothered by the fact that I need to put a disclaimer that I'm not here to hurt your feelings, I'm not here to cause problems and all of these things, but rather I'm genuinely curious. I'm not sure. I'm not entirely sure why that bothers me so much. Hmm. I guess it goes back to because I am generally an honest person, generally. So perhaps a part of me expects, okay, maybe honesty isn't the right word, but okay, maybe honesty isn't the right word, but let me explain my train of thought. Because, well, I guess to a certain extent, obviously, I can't say 100%. When I'm being told that my point of view is, I don't want to say wrong, but skewed. I'm generally willing to listen, regardless of whatever my opinions are or how strongly I believe in something. Generally speaking, I'm open to listen to other ideas and I'm open to have a discussion about it. And if it is required, then my beliefs will change depending on what is presented, because whatever beliefs or understandings that I may have, it's all because of the information or the knowledge that I have gathered throughout my years of living. That need not mean that it's correct. You see, we are operating, or rather, I'm operating on just the information that was presented to me or the ones that I have gained exposure to, but by no means is it everything that exists, right? So we should always be open to change our beliefs, right? So I guess it's very frustrating when I'm genuinely speaking to someone and I just want to understand why do you think that way. My goals are, of course, if I'm being honest, there are certain conversations where in the back of my mind, I do have the goal of wanting to change your mind on it, that I sincerely believe that your belief is wrong. But then again, when we are having these conversations, if you believe that your stance is the more appropriate stance or the more accurate stance, the more correct stance, whatever it may be, then shouldn't it be you, I don't want to use the word debate, but you explain yourself then you put forward your best case on why you think this is so, and I'll put forward my best case on why do I think this is so. And if we are at an impasse, then perhaps we can agree to disagree, or even better yet, do further research, do a deeper dive into the topic and see what we come up with. Because I don't understand, not I don't understand, I disagree with how society currently works. Like, I mean, you look in politics, there's generally two parties, right? The right or the left. And it's always, even not just the politicians, even the regular people, let's say one's a leftist, one's a right-wing person, right? Their debates are always them defending their party or their coalition or whatever. I mean, shouldn't all these debates, yeah, shouldn't the goal be the truth? You get what I mean? Like, for example, that if let's say now politicians are debating on whether this particular action is good for the country or not, let's say, and you've got the right wing people agreeing fully 100% yes, and a lot of the left says no. So then shouldn't it be a debate instead of arguing with one another? Shouldn't it be that the goal is for us to achieve this perfect solution, regardless whether it's a democratic solution or a Republican solution, right? I, I don't know. I guess when I'm talking about all these things, and I'm sorry, this one is really, really not structured. This whole thing is very all over the place. But I guess my point of contention here is the lack of, again, the word that comes to mind is honesty, because it is honesty if you think about it. It's sometimes when we put forward our opinion and someone disagrees with us or tries to debate us, we automatically, I don't want to assume malice on anyone's part, but we automatically are backed into a corner and start being defensive. And no, my position is right. No, and we are not listening to reason anymore. So, although that may not be a lie in itself, but it's certainly dishonest behavior. Perhaps it's unintentional dishonesty, perhaps. But a lot of us do this. I find it that I previously did a lot of this as well. Now, I mean, who am I kidding? Of course, it still happens, but I feel that recently I've been able to catch myself a little bit more in when I am just defending a position for no reason. And I just stop myself and like, wait, hold up. Like, why am I defending myself here? Like, I don't know. Let's have a discussion. So perhaps sometimes it takes a little bit of time to get there, but I do get that. And I guess what I'm saying is I want everyone to do that. Yeah. That basically that for some reason we are very, very attached to our ideas, our thoughts. But then again, our thoughts are not really ours, we don't really understand where thoughts come from, how we have that concept of intrusive thoughts, right? So clearly thoughts are not our own doing. And also we have to understand that, you'll be really surprised that sometimes some of the beliefs that we hold are not even actually our beliefs. It is basically just a compilation of things that we've seen or heard throughout our lives. It need not be true. Like I remember years back when I was still scrolling through social media on Instagram and all of those things, I would almost hate certain US politicians. Mind you, I did not do any of my own research, but purely, okay, I think one good example is not a politician, but Andrew Tate, right? So I remember when I think I was in college, or maybe I just got out of college, but at that time Andrew Tate was really booming, and I remember hating him. I remember hating and calling him a misogynist, and all these things, all the things that the media says about him. So look, I'm not here to say he's actually a good guy, he's actually a great guy or whatever. But I had uh, an argument, basically. I'm very ashamed to admit this, but I had an argument with a friend of mine at the time who believed he liked Andrew Tate, basically, and I didn't. So I remember that there was this one line I used that really stuck in my mind. I told him that if you have at least one single brain cell with you, then you wouldn't be a supporter of Andrew Tate. Mind you, I walked away from that table. Of course, our friendship is a little bit bothered by this, right? By this friction. But I walked away feeling extremely righteous, feeling that, yeah, you know what, I did the right thing. I'm changing minds, things like that. But then at some point, honestly, not too long ago, last year was honestly when I finally started realizing this whole separation from yourself and your thoughts, and started questioning a lot of things. And I was reminded of that whole Andrew Tate thing. So then what I did was I started doing my own research. I started listening to some of his talks and all of these things, and I don't think I should have taken that hard of a stance on it, at least without understanding it. So what my opinions are on Andrew Tate, I'm not. I don't think it's important. I don't think it's relevant for me to explain whether or not I agree or disagree with some of his points or not. It really doesn't matter. But the point here is to say that I realized that I completely formed an opinion on this person without actually knowing anything. All I had were reels or media that was already painting a picture of this person, and I just ate it up. I never double checked the information. I didn't look for other sources. It was just there floating in my mind. If you were to sit me down and ask me, okay, you say that he's a misogynist, why? I don't think I could have given you any answers. It's just that I was so sure he's a bad guy. And I can't really point out specifically why. But the moment someone questions me on it or disagrees with me, I get extremely defensive about it. But for what? I really don't know the guy. So why am I being defensive about it, So, but through thinking this way, I've now arrived at a point where, honestly, most, or maybe even most of the beliefs that we hold may not be ours. They just may be programmed into us by social media, by family, by everything around us. We are constantly absorbing everything around us, right? So perhaps what I'm getting at here perhaps is that all of us need to, when we are passionate about a topic, whether it's anger or any other form of passion, negative or positive, that's what I'm saying. Perhaps we should take a step back and question it. Why do I actually think this way? Try to question yourself first. And if you can't answer it, then you can go two ways. I feel one is do a deep dive, like earlier we mentioned, or the other one is start being open about it. So if you ever have a conversation about it, admit that you don't know much about it and try to learn from it. Be okay with having to change your stance, because that's another thing. Why are we bogged down on choosing teams? Why is it must we decide or have an opinion on an issue and that's it? We are not allowed to change our minds. That's really the wrong way about going about things. Our opinion should change based on new facts, new information, and all these things. Our understanding evolves, therefore, our position should evolve as well. So, yeah, let's try to do that. Let's all of us try to start questioning our beliefs, even positive beliefs. Just question them, just to get that understanding of, huh, we don't really have that many original thoughts. And the reason behind that is very obviously because we don't have space for us to actually have original thoughts. Because throughout our days, if we are not consumed with work, we are watching something on the television, or we are scrolling on social media, we are listening to podcasts, we are listening to music, we are constantly bombarded with information, with things, and we are constantly distracted, is what I'm saying. And we don't have a lot of time to sit down and actually mull over topics and form our own opinions. And I guess also partly due to that is because of this whole politically correct PC culture, right? Where everyone's so afraid to say the wrong thing. Yeah, that's pretty fucked up. I think that we all need to start having more original thoughts and put them forward and just be authentic. Because in the end of the day, if thoughts are not ours, then why would you get angry at someone for having a different opinion or a thought? Have a discussion then. If you truly believe that your point of view is superior or more accurate, then put it forward then. But do so with the understanding that you may be wrong. And thus all of us can work together in looking at what's right. So for example, like now let's say we take the topic of racism just for fun. So now, if I were to say anything other than racism is bad, I would be basically a social outcast. But why is that so? Look, I'm not saying that racism is good, but I don't think many of us has actually sat down and thought about the concept of racism, what it is, what it entails, and all of these things. But we just assume, as a blanket statement, racism is bad. Why not question it? Why not think for yourself? Yeah, perhaps racism wasn't a good choice for this example, but you get the picture. You get what I mean. That it doesn't matter if the topic is positive or negative, but if you have an opinion on it, think about it. Just think about it. Where did this come from? Is this something that you truly came to on your own, or was this instilled by the way you were taught growing up, by your friends, by media, and all these things? So, but yeah, once we get to that point of questioning our own beliefs and understanding that we can never truly know everything. So, everything we know is what we know to this point, to this extent. And we could always be wrong, or it could change later on. So once we start looking at things through that perspective, then I believe it becomes easier to not be offended when people question you on your beliefs. In fact, you might even see it as an opportunity for you to deepen your understanding on the topic, or even an opportunity to just to find out whether or not you actually have genuine opinions on the topic, or are you just parroting things that you've seen online, you know so yeah, let's do that. Let's talk, because honestly, I would really love for society to be mature in conversation. I think that's the way I want to put it, mature in conversation, meaning to say that we are all able to just talk about things, to debate ideas. Nothing's off limits. I think that's how it should be done. Spirited discussions, regardless of topics, and assuming the best in people. Yeah. Of course, as I'm saying this, I can already imagine the potential issues that may come. But I don't know. I honestly don't know what we should or shouldn't do. This is just me rambling. The whole point, or the whole reason I even made this video, is because I just felt honestly irritated by the fact that we have to put disclaimers before we question things. And the rest is just ramble, just thinking. So, yeah, there is no actual point or no actual conclusion to this. But I hope you enjoyed listening to me ramble.